Doc Holliday, not a real doctor. No medical degree whatsoever.
Interesting.
Not even a little bit of a medical degree. None. He claims he was a dentist in 1881. All right, come on, get the hell out of here. What kind of dentist was that? What do they teach you? What woodpecker you use to peck a molar out?
I think back then they're still just using the whole, if it hurts, just hit it with a rock, see if it falls out and feels better.
Keep hitting yourself in the head with a rock, and when you stop hitting yourself in the head, it feels better?
Something like that.
All right, well, whatever works. All right, guys. We are here. We don't have Jay with us today. He wasn't feeling well, so he's not going to be with us. Hudson will be here, maybe.
You still got me, or did I?
No, we got you.
All right.
For the moment.
My internet's kind of wonky. It's raining where we are, and where I've got to set up so I don't disturb the kids and the wife as they get ready for bed. Is internet signal's not that great, so the weather tends to affect that.
Yeah, well, you're using that McDonald's internet.
Yeah, as we discussed the last show. I'm in a little shack out behind the McDonald's in my home. They're in my town, so.
Yeah, for those that don't know, you can do a green screen feature on this website that we use. That construction site, that's not real. That's actually the back of a Ford Ranger that you're looking at.
Yeah. No, and it is an active, semi-unactive construction site. So.
Little bit of house cleaning at the top of the show. Just use that affiliate link if you feel so inclined to donate to us on PayPal. The links are cycling into the videos as I get time to put them in there. But other than that, we're going to go ahead and dive right into this topic because it is a big one. I literally have 5.5 pages of notes on this. So let me, hang on. There we go. I got to get my stuff where I can see everything here. Don't talk or anything and help me out while I do this.
Concentration is all yours, bud.
Oh, okay. Thank you. It's very kind of you. Got to get my stuff situated. You said you had a quote that you wanted to start out with. You know, if I was better at computers, I could probably do like 2 screens on the same thing like this, but I'm not.
Yeah. All right. So, so the quote kind of turned into one of my favorite quotes. So, most people probably have heard the saying, you know, a jack of all trade is a master of none. Well, that's not the entire quote. And for years, I thought that was. So obviously, as I was changing careers and kind of what I do now, I kind of have to know a little bit of how everything works with the trades, you know, from anything from plumbing, electrical, framing, flat work or like concrete, siding, window insulation. So I kind of have to have a general knowledge of what all the specific trades and, you know, professionals in that trade have spent years, you know, learning basically. So whenever I found out what the full quote was, you know, for a jack of all trades is a master of none, you know, the other part of that is but oftentimes better than a master of one. So anytime someone says that they're like a jack of all trades but a master of none, but sometimes that's better than a master of none, basically meaning, you know, even if you're a master of one specific trade, that's not always the best thing for a situation. So kind of, you know, that whole saying's kind of take a new meaning for me once I learned what the rest of it was.
I don't know, man. I've met a lot of people that I think can barely handle getting their pants put on the right direction in the morning.
Well, it's not for everyone. It's a general thing, for, I guess.
I think that saying too was probably came about, not to pick apart what you just said, but because what you did say was true. But I think it came about probably a long time ago when things were a lot less complex and there were fewer moving parts than there are now with, building your average house.
Yeah. Yeah. No, definitely. As time's gone on, you've definitely got this thing called building codes that's kind of thrown a wrench in, you know, how you are supposed to build a house and everything. So,
You know what the first building code was?
I do not know.
It was the
Oh, shit.
Hartford Loop. Goes on boilers. It prevents boilers from exploding. The reason it's called the Hartford Loop is because back in I can't remember what year it was, but it was a long time ago. A lot of boilers were exploding because they didn't have as many safety features on them as they do now, and the Hartford Insurance Company would started going out and investigating why certain boilers were um you know blowing up and other ones weren't, and they found that the certain boilers that had a Hartford loop to basically temper the water coming into the boiler, they didn't blow up, but the other ones that didn't have it did. Well, because it was a Hartford insurance company, they said, we're not going to insure your building unless you have this. It became known as the Hartford Loop.
I remember Hartford was in that. I forgot what it was exactly called though. But
That was the first building code, and then everything went off from there. But kind of back to what we were saying before, about before building codes, I think that saying had more sense. I wouldn't want a painter to do the electrical in my house. He could be a fine electrician, but I mean, an electrician doing the painting is probably okay, but the other way around is probably not.
no, and I agree with you with that. Although, some of the well, so there's one trade that I deal with that mainly deals with floor installation and working with another subcontractor trying to get some siding issues done. I went to go check on the siding job, and the guy that I had just seen the day before doing this floor repair for me was actually up on a ladder repairing some siding. And it just so happens that he was the owner of both like a flooring and siding like small contractor that the two larger contractors subcontracted work out to whenever their in-house crews got overworked. So I thought that was pretty interesting to see a flooring guy up on a ladder putting up siding. But he did a good job, and he definitely knows what he was doing. But
I'm not a flooring guy, but I imagine you rarely need a ladder for it.
no, it depends on which way the floor goes.
Oh, well, that's true.
Yeah.
If you're a bad flooring guy, you probably need a ladder a lot.
Probably, because there's probably no floor.
But not to cut this short, because we could probably make crazy analogies all night long. We have got to get this topic rolling because this is a monster, buddy. The topic is the history of the trades, and I think we underestimated this one a little bit because we were going to put some other stuff in here that we've since decided there's no room for. So I did a boatload of research, probably the most research I've done for a topic so far. And truthfully, there's nowhere to start but the beginning before people even had clothes. And that'll make sense here in a minute as we dive into it a little bit further. Oldest trade that I could find dates back to around 2.6 million years ago. Okay. And the trade is toolmaker. 2.6 million years ago apparently was when we started making tools as a species. completely changed human evolution. And it's as a direct result, we're the last remaining of the hominid species, which I couldn't get a direct answer on what that was exactly. And I honestly had so much other stuff that I had to look at that I couldn't get into it that deeply. Today, they're commonly referred to as machinists. And I did look up, I want to go ahead and preface this right now. I did look up salaries for most of these jobs. Salary ranges wildly depending on where you are in the country, your skill level, things like that. I don't want anybody commenting that they make more than that or less than that or whatever. These are averages. But today, machinists can typically make around $38 to $75,000. A little cool thing that I did find though, some of the tools that they were made back, they were making way back in the day were made out of quartz, obsidian, and flint. So, in case you were wondering, they did have obsidian knives way back then, and obsidian is still used today to make certain surgical tools like scalpels for eye surgery. It's one of the sharpest knives you can get.
Very interesting.
So we got that.
It kind of sounds like one of those situations where if it ain't broke, don't fix it, right? Cutting people open with a rock. Worked back then, works now.
Works back then, works now. Yeah, I mean, and I mean, again, some of this stuff, like, what classifies as a tool? If I beat a lion to death with a rock, is that considered a tool? Because I didn't do it with my fists and stuff like that. But that was the oldest one I could find, was 2.6 million years ago. We're gonna go ahead and go forward in time. I tried to do these from like the furthest back to present day as well. Next up on the list would be hunter slash butcher. That dates back to around 1.8 million years ago. This one is a result of the tool makers creating knives and weapons and things like that from stone and sticks and whatever they could find. A couple cool things that I found out about this one. Until recently, it was thought that people actually just scavenged for meat, picking off like whatever other larger predators, lions, bears, things like that left behind, for like meat, until around 400,000 years ago. They thought that's what happened, but actual new archaeological evidence dates back to around 1.8 million years ago that has challenged the theory that people didn't start or weren't hunting back then. So that's pretty cool. Of course, hunting is no longer a profession in America. There are certain hunters that will sell certain pieces of meat, things like that, to local restaurants or whatever if they want to run a special on, say, venison or elk or whatever the case is. But butchers are still a thing. I mean, I know it's not there anymore, but the Bilo down the street that recently closed from the house here, they still had a butcher in the shop. Like, you could actually get a cut of meat from him. You could get a specific cut of meat, and they usually earn between $20,000 and $47,000 a year. So,
yeah, the believe it or not, the grocery stores, both of them. I got a Piggly Wiggly right down the road, and then used to have a Bilo, but now it's a Food Line, and they both have butchers that actually work in the back, which I still find pretty neat. But if you don't want to go to a grocery store, for whatever reason you won't like one of those hardcore old timey butchers, there's also another one, pretty good one in my area, right down the road from me. And it's just a family-owned business. They threw up a shop, and it's sterile. And I know some of the local livestock farmers and everything around where I live. That's kind of where they take their meat to have it butchered. And then a lot of the hunters, they'll take their wild game there to to get steaks or hamburgers or sausages made. So trades are all around.
Yeah, that is. I looked it up because I was reading basically I looked up the way that I did this was I looked up a list of like different trades, and some of them were on there, and I'm like, is that really a trade? And I looked it up, and yeah, sure shit, hunter slash. Well, I looked up butcher. Obviously, hunter, like I said, it's not a profession in this country anymore. But I looked up butcher, and they were like, yeah, it's definitely a trade. And I've got another one coming up here in a minute that is also a trade that I looked into how it was a trade a little bit, just very, very briefly, and we'll go over that in just a minute.
Cool.
The next one is tailor, like somebody that fits suits for you or, lets out a dress or something like that. They are thought to have originated between 100 and 500,000 years ago. Mainly came about due to people living in colder climates, wanting to be able to stay warm. The tailor thing, from what I was looking up, is a little bit hard to date exactly, just because of the clothing is typically made of, or the clothing was made of things like cotton or plant-based material, and a lot of it would break down really easily and in the ground. So made it a little bit harder to date that. But some of the oldest sewing needles date back to around 40,000 to 60,000 years ago. The ones that we found, they think they're actually made of either bird bones. They found some that are made of ivory in places like Mesopotamia and stuff like that. So that's pretty cool. I didn't know that needles went back 60,000 years almost. So pretty interesting. You can talk more. You don't have to be afraid to talk.
No, I know. I'm trying to monitor because my computer only shows me moving, but not you. So I'm trying to go between my phone and the computer to see when to chime in. But yeah, I noticed sewing. That's another one of those interesting trades that you kind of don't really think of as being a trade. I know, like with me, whenever you hear tradesmen or just trade in general, you think of, your typical ones like HVAC, plumbing, electrical,
Roofer,
framing, roofer, basically any job where you either hold a wrench or a hammer in your hand and beat the crap out of something.
Exactly. That's the way it should be.
Yeah, depending on how frustrated you get. But if you really like think about it, like being a trades person in general, or like a trade, or using any type of tool, basically anything other than using your own hands to manipulate something, you're technically using a tool. So doing this kind of research and stuff, because whenever I was looking into like the surnames and stuff like that, like meanings of last names back.
Did you find one for Taylor out of curiosity?
Actually, yeah. So typically anyone like with who was a tailor or something, it's Taylor was actually the last name. It's
like TAYLOR or whatever.
Yeah, it's not that creative, or like Thatcher. I don't know if any of our viewers are a Knight's Tale fans or not, but the main character, William Thatcher, his dad, the scene that you see him in, he's repairing nets, but Thatcher's back in the day, they basically either they could repair nets, cloths, sails, roofs.
Is that the movie A Knight's Tale?
Yeah,
I think I've seen it.
Yeah, it's got
more of a King Arthur fan personally.
Well, I won't hold that against you. It's more of a comedy. It's a good one if you want a good laugh. But
what's not to like about King Arthur, man? I mean, it's got Keira Knightley in it. Come on.
Oh, it depends which one you watch. There's like
The 2004 one with Keira Knightley and was it Russell Crowe, I think something like that.
I
That's the
don't
one
think
that I
Russell
watched.
Crowe.
Oh, what's his? Damn it, Hudson! You're gonna make me look it up.
No, I know which one you're thinking of. Yeah,
No,
no,
because
I'm gonna
people
make
are
you look that
gonna
one up.
freaking start tweeting us and shit. Let me
Hopefully
look
they
it up.
start tweeting it, because if they start tweeting it, guess what? That means we become trending.
That's true, and Twitter's a cult. Clive Owen, that's who plays Arthur.
Yeah,
I get him confused with the other guy all the time.
yeah.
Typical tailor today makes between $20,000 and $59,000 a year. I don't think we said that yet, but that's what they
Nope.
make. Now we're
Not too bad
starting.
on that.
Yeah. Now we're starting on our list to get a little closer to modern day. Farming is considered a trade, and this is the one that I was talking about. That kind of ties in with butcher, where I had to look this one up to say, like, how is this like considered a trade? So a trade by definition is any skilled labor that often requires specialized training, which I suppose butchery and farming would play into that, but farming specifically plays into that because that is something for tax purposes. Some reason or another, farming is considered a trade to the IRS. But farming originally or originated between 12 and 13,000 years ago. And this came about when people switched from the hunter-gatherer nomadic lifestyles to a more agrarian lifestyle. Agriculture also caused a huge population boom back then because basically food became more dependable and it was a more, I guess, beneficial to repopulate the earth more. And despite another cool little fun fact that I found about it, despite society using farming since its inception, most farms have remained family businesses since their inception. So it's a lot of like little mom and pop shops. I actually know, especially it's probably the same around you, but especially around me, I know of like 3 little family owned farms that they probably don't
Yeah,
have more than maybe 100 acres, and
yeah,
few hundred head of cattle or, I don't know, 500 chickens or something like that. But, and
yeah.
this is,
Well, I mean, and nowadays it's like modern farming or agriculture is um, more specific. So kind of like in my area, there's a lot of
there's
cattle
people that do
farmers.
just cattle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know further out west you go, corn, corn and potatoes out west. That's basically where everything is. Anything that goes in the ground, because they got all the nice flat, level ground. All the farmers out there, it's
Oh, yeah.
corn,
It's the
potatoes.
grain basket of America and all that good stuff.
Yeah.
All those cliches. And then you get really
Oh,
far out west to like Montana and it's cows again.
yeah. Kind of interesting how that happens. Or
Yeah.
you get down to Texas and it's cows as well.
Yeah. It's kind of funny
Which,
how that works.
It is. It is. But
I don't know how they came up with this number. I truly I don't. But it says farmers typically make between $20,000 and $78,000 a year. I don't know if they're lumping like, again, this is an average. I don't know if they're lumping like farm hands in that are getting paid like $100 a day with that, or in with the guy that's got 5,000 head of cattle that he's taken to market. I have no idea. That number to me sounds way off. But I'm not a
yeah.
farmer, so
Um,
I don't know.
Yeah. Well, I mean, even some of the local farmers, because I mean, Nick, you're still. I mean, we grew up in the same area, um, and I remember. I mean, we went to school with a few people whose family farmed for Tyson. You know,
Yeah.
where
Oh
they're
yeah, there's a
chickens and turkeys
bunch of
for
Tyson farms
Tyson.
around here.
Um, and I mean, I know that they definitely. I mean, working for Tyson and stuff. I mean, they were definitely making way more than 78,000 a year. Um,
Yeah.
but I don't know if that's more so because it was like they're more concentrated on one type of product or whatever, or if they were just because they work for Tyson and they Tyson's like, hey, we'll pay you this much to make sure your facility is this certain level of cleanliness. You have this many head of chicken or roosters or whatever. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's kind of I'd like to know where they get that number from if they are
I
including the farm hands.
and some of these, like I got these from different sources and stuff too. So I salary and pricing and stuff like that. It's I don't know. I thought about not even including it because it varies so wildly from state to state and area to area. And then like we're talking about, like you can farm corn, you can farm potatoes, you can farm like you can be a rancher, which would, I'm assuming would fall under this. You could have a horse farm where you rent out stalls for people to put their horses in your barn, and your hands, will make sure that they're fed and clean and all that stuff. So it's,
Yeah,
I'm sure all
been
that
there, done
stuff.
that.
I've helped out a few times.
Yeah, I remember
But
that. That was probably one of my favorite jobs that I had through high school and college was working on a horse farm.
well, and then what's the other
But
thing? Oh, well, like so me and you have a mutual friend whose mom like raises chickens and goats and sells them on Craigslist and stuff like that. Is that technically is that what they're considering a farmer? So who the
well,
hell knows how they came up with
it,
that?
yeah, well, and try not to get too far on a tangent, but that's I guess kind of what you and I are good at doing. But going back with that, like with farming, whenever I think farming, I think more so like large scale operation. I mean, you can have small farms like family owned farms. The mutual friend we're talking about. I mean, like my dad, he raises chickens. Um, he's only got like 24 laying hens right now, but at one point he had close to 200, hens and roosters. Um, got a little out of hand, and he realized it. So then we processed them and narrowed the flock down. Um, but at that point, when it's on a smaller scale, I honestly want to say that that's more of like a homestead type farm instead of like commercial farming. Do you
Yeah, I
understand
don't
what I'm saying
know. I
with that?
mean, if you sell if you sell one of your neighbors a dozen eggs, does it become commercial at that point, or
I don't think it's commercial because it's still small scale and privatized. It's kind of like having your own business.
I
Um,
mean,
which
you
I
know,
mean, I guess with the definition of stuff like that, your own business. Um, yeah, I don't know. Like where would you draw the line with that? I honestly think that if you're small scale, only a couple acres, like you don't have like over 100 head of cattle or whatever, and you just do small scale where you sell on Craigslist or to your neighbor or whatnot. I would consider that's more of like a homesteading kind of lifestyle.
well,
Um,
what's the minimum before you have to claim with the IRS?
I mean, I
Like, what's
only
the
know.
minimum a year? It's like what, $10,000 or something. Before you have to claim it as like a source of income. You're like,
Well, I know.
I mean, not talking
So
about like gift tax or anything or windfall or anything like that, but.
Yeah.
Those are all different. But if you have to start claiming it on your taxes, I'd say that counts, don't you?
Yeah, I would say if you got to claim it on your taxes, that would count, because if you got
Because
to claim it on your
I'm
taxes,
thinking
you could
that's
also,
probably how they're compiling this data.
yeah.
So
Well, and then if you go back to, because I know for a lot of like farmers and stuff like that, there are tax breaks specific for like farmers, whether it's agricultural or livestock. Um,
and not
so
to
I
beat
mean,
up
I
on
guess you're right.
farmers
Like if you,
either, but they do. Like, I know in this area there's certain farmers that every single year they will buy an entire fleet of new vehicles. And the reason that they do that is because at the end of the year they want to show a loss because they can get a grant from the government, because after the Dust Bowl and all the farms going out of business and stuff like that, there were certain social programs that were put in place to protect the farms so that they don't go out of business, because they are truthfully essential to day-to-day living. So
yeah,
if you're just going off of like taxes, you're probably going to have a lot of farms in the area that are losing money, which is going to drive that number way down.
yeah.
So
Maybe that's why the average range is between 20 and 78,000.
and that would explain the next one that I'm going to get to, because as we're talking about this, I'm looking at the salary range for the next one, and
Oh, don't tell me that the next trade is going to be a tax collector, because if you do, I'm gonna slap you
that
across
is a
your face.
white collar job. That would not be in this show.
No, their pens aren't tools.
You can't hammer a nail with a laptop. I've
Hell
tried.
no.
Just puts a
You can
hole
make
in the
my
screen.
life miserable like my boss can sometimes, but
It just puts a
God,
hole in the computer, and then I need a new one.
yep. But don't worry, they'll be able to pay for it with the taxes we have to give them at the end of every year.
Different topic for a different show, and we got a lot more to cover.
Yeah, I know. All right, let's get moving on. Let's pencil that in.
Pencil that in.
Feelings
Next show,
on tax
taxes.
taxes. I mean, it is tax season, so it'd be a
It is tax
good
season.
follow up.
The next one on the list is builders, and again, this sort of ties in with the farmers going from that nomadic hunter gatherer lifestyle to a more, you know, kind of urbanized lifestyle, I guess, for lack of a better term. That originated between 10 and 15,000 years ago. Again, right around the same time farming, because farming is estimated between 12 and 13,000 years ago. So there's a few of these that you're going to see that they tie right together with each other. Builder salary ranges between $23,000 and $82,000 a year, which, going back to the last one, we had that wide range. I do know in this area, at least, that there are a lot of building or construction places that are like, farming, trucking, and grading and stuff like that. So, and I know they do that to specifically get some of those credits we were talking about with the farming. So I think that's why the range is so wide, and you get that, because truth be told, man, I don't know a builder out there that is building houses day in and day out and is making $23,000 a year.
Yeah.
Like the
Well,
builder and individual,
oh well, and especially in today's environment. I mean, there right now. I mean,
which
I'm
you can
sure.
speak to that for sure.
Yeah. So, I mean, I know kind of in our area, and this is the interesting with that. Like again, I'd like to know where they're getting that price range from, because I know with some of the framers, or in my area or my region, um, there are two major framing contractors that basically own they work for all the builders in the area, like all the big name and even the small name builders, and it's just between these two companies that do all the framing for all these houses. And I don't know if you're any of our viewers,
All five.
watch the market or anything like that. But right now, like the housing market is just going through the roof, both for old homes and just new construction. But I mean, I can tell you, like, the contractor that we use for framing, they definitely make more than the 80,000 a year. Like they're well up into
Oh, well, the
um
next one on the list that I have is plumbing. And plumbers typically make between 47 and $74,000 a year from what I looked up. I'm like, there's no way that the guy building the house is making less than the guy that's putting the piping in.
yeah. Well, and then that's where you get back to like the specialized trade. You know, not trying to say that swinging a hammer and driving nails all day isn't a specialized trade, but if you look at plumbing, um, there are two things that I can tell you right now will ruin a house if it fails: electrical and plumbing. Like those are the two major things that, you know, as long as everything's been nailed together and is somewhat vertical and plumb and, you know, tied down to the slab or the foundation of the house, you got plumbing or electrical issues, that house is pretty much, you know, done for.
But
But yeah, like you, like I still, with the number of houses that I've seen go up, and then even with like side carpentry jobs, these carpenters, they don't focus on just new builds. Like they also have crews that will do renovations and additions to old homes. So
well, and builder
maybe
that was the other thing that I was like, what is a builder? I should have looked it up, but I had so much other stuff that I was looking up and looking into and stuff that I just didn't get around to it. But I'm like, what qualifies as a builder? Are we talking like a framer, or are we talking about like a general contractor? Because it's two
yeah.
very different things.
So for that price range and just kind of knowing some of the guys I work with, I mean, I don't know their personal salaries, but you know, I kind of know what the ballpark is. Like I would say, like the project manager or the on-site superintendent, I think that's where that salary range that you got is accounting for, is like the person that is basically managing the crews that do it. On the lower end of that, like on the higher end, I think is like the project managers. The lower end of
It's
that
probably like a
range,
team lead
it,
or something.
no, on the lower end, that's going to be the actual framers, the guys that are driving the nails. Um, just,
They
you
don't
know,
drive
from
nails
what I
anymore.
know,
They
and
use
what
a
I,
nail gun.
yeah, well, I mean, they still use hammers, man. I know whenever they're putting that, because we do slab construction predominantly in my area, with the exception of a few elevated ones. But whenever they're putting that the sill plate on, they're still using like the old timey nails, like the square nails, to drive that base plate
The
two
masonry
by
nails.
four. Yeah, no, it's just like the square nail. You know that the first kind of nails that they had back in the day to hold houses up that were kind of square and rectangular and elongated. They used that to hold them down or tack them into the concrete, and then they put the hurricane straps and stuff on them to secure them. And then, you know, if they need, if the plans call for additional like anchorage or bolts, then they go back and drill those in later.
Most
But
shingles, if you look at the packaging of most shingles, you're not supposed to put them on with a nail gun.
yep,
They do make certain types that you can put up with a nail gun, but you know, I'm going to say probably 85-90% of them out there are not supposed to be put up with nail guns. So think about that next time you drive by a house and they're getting a roof put on. There's a what 1 in 10 chance they're doing it wrong.
yeah,
But
no, there's a good chance of that.
yeah, we got to keep going through this though. Plumbing, plumbing
Yeah,
originated. Oh, fuck me, originated around 4000 BCE. The earliest examples were found in Mesopotamia. Um, Basically, plumbing came about because people needed a way to deal with collecting water for cooking, cleaning, bathing. They also needed a way to treat or deal with wastewater. Um, Plumbing reached a really early apex in Rome with the aqueducts, one of the most famous plumbing structures that are out there. Aqueducts were constructed in 312 BCE. So right before Common Era there. They use sewer tiles for the wastewater, and they pipe the fresh water to a big fountain in the center of town, where people would come in and basically you'd pay a couple of cents and you could fill up a pipe with or you could fill up a jar in town there. They piped it into town with lead piping, though, was the only problem. So made the water taste sweet, but everybody's hair fell out and they couldn't figure out why. But
and people wonder how the Roman Empire fell. Everyone went crazy.
It's not that far off, honestly.
Yeah.
But even though it's been around since 4000 BCE and the Romans figured everything out in 312 BCE, it didn't become mainstream in everyday houses until around 1840, at least in this country. Before then, it was only really found in really expensive houses like the Biltmore, the White House probably had it, crap like that. And again, plumbers typically make $47,000 and $74,000 a year. Truth be told, this one topic, plumbing here, we could do an entire show of on its own. I found so much stuff on that. There's so much like just interesting stuff that I just could not put into this because I knew we weren't going to have enough time.
Yeah. Well, maybe one of the shows later on.
We're coming back to this history.
Oh,
it's
no,
going to be
yeah. Well, what I was going to say is, whenever we get further on, bring back these history topics with like the plumbing and stuff. Whenever when we can track down somebody that plumbs for a profession that's willing to speak on the internet about what they do and whatnot.
Truth be told, plumbers actually make a little bit more than heating and air people, and they can keep every single dime of it. I mean, I'll do new construction plumbing. I don't want to deal with my own shit. I'm not dealing with anybody else's shit.
Yeah, no.
Figuratively and literally.
Yeah, I've seen some of the stuff, and I've heard some of the stories from the plumbers that I work with, and I thought some of the stuff I dealt with as back when I was in law enforcement was gruesome. No, man, they tell some scary tales. I'm like, no, not
dude.
For me.
I'm not even trying to make a joke here. Those guys have seen some shit. That's like, I mean that in the most serious way possible too.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
But next up on our little hit list we got going on here, electricians. So I did not expect this one to be as early as it was. Electrician, the trade, originated sometime in the 1700s. Dates are a little bit disputed, but it's basically been studied since the first thunderstorm. It's been studied in nature for thousands and thousands of years. I'm just going to hit a few of the most notable people in electricity because there's probably thousands. Again, it's going to be its own topic at some point. But the most notable people to study electricity are Ben Franklin. He was the one who, we lost Hudson for a minute. I'm just going to keep going. Ben Franklin, he proved lightning is electricity. Apparently that was just theorized up until that point. Hey, you're back.
Yep. Like I said.
Hey, you know what? It waited 43 minutes to do it. I'll take it.
Yeah. Thank you.
You didn't miss much. We just got to Ben Franklin, so. But he proved
Franklin, didn't he fly a kite or something?
Something about a kite. No, basically what he did is he proved he died of syphilis, didn't he? Was it syphilis?
Yeah, he also liked to sit on his front porch naked.
Well, his brain was being eaten by spires of syphilis, so.
Well, I mean,
he's a 1700s meth head.
Pretty much.
I mean, it's essentially doing the same thing. But he proved lightning is electricity. The next guy was Italian physicist Luigi, of course his name's Luigi, Galvani. He actually made discoveries that led to the discovery of the voltaic pile, sorry. which his successor, another Italian physicist, Alessandro Giuseppe Antonio Anastasio Volta, that guy is on the baseball card for Italian names. He used the last guy's discovery to basically develop the first battery. All this more or less leads up to, and Volta, his name is the basis for the word volt, which is a measure of electricity. But all this, it basically leads up to 1882 when Thomas Edison puts electricity in houses in New York City for the first time. Later on, a couple years later, Nikola Tesla would go on to discover alternating current, which is now the standard for electricity in buildings, houses. All this happens starts way back in the 1700s. Electricity, it starts in the 1700s, gets put in houses for the first time in 1882, does not become mainstream in houses for another 50 years. And it would take another 25 years after that for all the houses in America to have electricity in them, mainly because people didn't trust or understand what electricity was. They thought it would literally leak out of the outlets. Like if you didn't have something plugged in, they thought it was leaking onto the floor because they just had no idea the concept of how it worked, which I kind of find a little bit funny.
Yeah. But I mean, you think about it, if they weren't familiar with it or how it would work, I mean, for many years, it's like, well, we always, they're used to lighting their houses and everything with just either candles or oil lamps,
Standard Oil. That's where Standard Oil came from.
Yep.
There actually is a pretty cool Nikola Tesla documentary on Netflix. It's pretty interesting. It talks a lot of it's. I think it was done by PBS. It's been a while since I watched it, but it basically goes through like the man from birth to death, and I've always been very curious about his using the Tesla coils for the wireless electricity transmission, just because it seemed like everything that like he understood electricity on a way that nobody else has ever understood. And I've always been curious about that. Like what did he see that he thought he could make it work that nobody before him or after him has been able to see? I'm kind of sad that he's dead, but anyway, electrician salary usually ranges between $34,000 and $68,000 a year. The next one, what's that?
I said that's very interesting because when building a house or working with anything, that's probably the most dangerous thing that you can deal with.
Because it's one of three things that'll burn your house down.
Yeah.
It's electricity, gas piping, and heating and air. Those are like the three main causes of fire. And actually, a lot of times, if the fire investigator comes in after a house fire and he can't determine the cause, they usually just blame it on the electrical because it's 9 times out of 10 it's the problem if it's not arson. Next one on the list is actually HVACR. And the R stands for refrigeration, which surprised me a little bit because it actually came about before. It actually came about a little bit before electricity. I didn't put it before electricity for a certain reason, but it came about before automobile mechanic as well. So I thought that was kind of interesting. First artificial refrigeration began in 1755 with a man named William Cullen. He designed a small refrigeration machine by pulling a vacuum on a tube containing diethyl ether, which then started to boil under the vacuum and caused the air around the tube to cool down. Refrigeration continued to be developed well through the 1800s, with the first commercial ice machine being invented in 1854. Until 1913, ice was exclusively used to cool refrigerators in homes. And it wasn't until 1913 that the first home refrigerators were invented. And they were all the big lead line ones like you see in the Indiana Jones movies. In 1901, the first air conditioner was invented. It was built by a man named Willis Carrier. He designed it for use in train boxcars. So, um, you actually had air conditioning on trains before you had refrigerators in your house. In 1902, Willis Carrier and uh, put the first air conditioner in the Sackett Wilhelms Lithography and Publishing Company in Brooklyn, New York. But at the time, it wasn't called an air conditioner. The term air conditioner was coined by a man named Stuart Kramer of Charlotte, North Carolina in 1906 when he was exploring ways to add moisture to the air of his textile mill. Why the hell you need more moisture in the air in Charlotte is beyond me.
Yeah, Charlotte's kind of in one of those unique locations where it's
Oh, it's like breathing chicken noodle soup in the summertime. It's ridiculous.
yeah, which is I always found interesting because I always thought, where I live a lot closer to the coast than you do. You'd expect living right on the coast, it's going to be hot and humid, and don't get me wrong, it is. But I mean, I know going back up to the Charlotte area from time to time over the summer to help my dad or whatnot. I get out as soon as I get out of the truck, I just start pouring sweat. I'm like, what the hell is this?
I have actually met people from Arizona that they found out what I did and they called me insane because they're like, it is hotter in Charlotte than it is where we live in Phoenix. Not by temperature, they're like just strictly by like how it feels outside. They're like, you're
Yeah.
insane to go on rooftops and go in attics and stuff. I'm like, well, we already knew that.
Yep.
Where was I? Oh, in 1931, air conditioners became popular in houses with the invention of what would basically turn into the modern day window air conditioner. You want to guess what the average cost of a window air conditioner was in today's money back then?
Like $50.
Oh no, you're never gonna get it.
No.
You're way off.
$100.
Way off. The average cost was between $120,000 and $600,000.
Say what now?
The average cost of a window air conditioner, if with like a if you put it into a an adjuster, today's money. Yeah,
gotcha.
yeah,
Okay.
and yeah, if you put it into an inflation calculator, the average cost of an air conditioner would cost you between $120,000 and $600,000
Jeez.
for a window rattler that sits up there and makes ridiculous amounts of noise. But
hell, to live in comfort.
Yeah, right. Well, there's a luxury tax on it as well, so that plays a part on it. But the HVAC side of it is considered a luxury, where the refrigeration side of it is considered a necessity. So you got this weird hybrid of the two. But average technician can expect to make between $24,000 and $80,000 a year. So
not bad.
Not bad. Which I think, hang on, let me consult. Actually, according to what I looked at, to pull my numbers from, they're saying that heating and air technicians make more than plumbers. Of course, I looked up technicians specifically. They're saying they make more than plumbers, which most of the lists typically put plumbers above heating and air technicians. So that's interesting. I just realized that now. Last but not least is auto mechanics. Believe it or not, auto mechanics have been around since the early 1800s. Most of the first auto mechanics on the scene were former train mechanics who started working for European car manufacturers, who, according to history.com, European car manufacturers perfected the first automobile in 1901. Henry Ford made his first car, I think, in 1902, if I remember right. I didn't put it in my notes. In 1913, Henry Ford made cars available to the everyday man by inventing the assembly line. A lot of people often give him credit for inventing the car. He actually didn't. The car was around for quite some time before him. 1914, John Francis Dodge and his brother Horace split from the Ford Motor Company and start Dodge Brothers Motor Company. And as more and more cars hit the road, mechanics were needed to maintain and repair them. Typical ASE certified mechanics make between $41,000 and $80,000 a year, so not too bad. And if all else fails, you can always go drive truck.
Yeah, especially now with the national truck shortage.
Well, they're all up in Canada.
Yeah,
but
I don't blame them.
That's all that I dove into on this, because the list was a lot longer. I could have went so much further. I mean, the auto mechanics, I could have dove so much harder into that. We could have, like, I found like who made the first car and like what it was called, and all kinds of stuff that I could have put in here, but just it took us 55 minutes to go through this, and I think I've only got 10, maybe 10 different trades or so. I don't know. I
Oh,
can
dude,
count it real quick.
I mean, so many trades that are out there. I mean, we barely scratch the surface. I mean, we still miss painters, cleaners.
Yeah, I got 9. So
Yeah,
I mean, I don't want to make it a lecture either and put people comatose. So, but I mean, if you want to hear more on these topics, please tell us which of these topics that you want to do, because a lot of this stuff, there's so much cool information that I found that I just wasn't able to put in there. And I know you are a history guy. I'm a big history nerd, so it's definitely something that me and you would enjoy diving deep into.
Yeah. Or, I mean, hell, even if any of you are in any specific trade that we didn't mention or have any suggestions, let us know. You know, I know, talk with Nick and Jay, you know, with bringing me on, all of our hopes is that, you know, we kind of help make this channel kind of grow. And
well, we do have a goal for it. We don't want to grow it just so that we can have the acclaim that goes with it. I mean, we do want to take away this stigma that is around. Okay, hang on. We got to have the speech again. We need to make this a disclaimer at the beginning of the show or something.
Yeah. So we're not trying to get popular by any means. More so, the goal is to help, I guess, explain, you know, what is a trades person, and, you know, that there's more than one way for an honest living. At least that's kind of my idea of it, you know, that like you don't have to go get a degree and just like sit behind a desk to make a living. Like, there's other ways to make a living out there that you can enjoy. You know?
Well, I know me and you both went to the same high school, and it was the same, you know, story at the beginning of every single school year about, you know, pay attention to school, learn as much as you can, go to college, get an education. If you don't go to college, you don't get an education, you're going to, you know, dig in a ditch making, you know, $7.50 an hour, which at the time that me and you were in school was minimum wage.
Yep.
You know, and this whole thing, and there was, it was either you become a ditch digger, you go into the military, because,
or you went to college and graduated with a lot of debt.
Yeah,
basically.
And you know, there are people out there that do have this, you know, discussion. We're not the first people to think it up. Mike Rowe has his show that he devotes to it. He's got a couple of shows he's doing to it now. Chip Foose talks about it. That was the whole idea behind the OCC Chopper show and stuff like that, was to show people that you can build cool shit and make a good living at it. And that's all we're trying to do, just on a grassroots movement of, you know, hey, we're a couple of guys that we build cool shit and we make a good living at it. And just to show people out there, if you've got a, you know, kid in high school, or I don't know, nephew, uncle, or not an uncle. Damn, you got an uncle in high school? Your family's more messed up than mine.
I mean, there is a way.
There is a way.
To school, or, I mean, honestly, real life story. I knew this guy. he was in the same grade with me, and when him and I were both in the 8th grade, his niece he was the uncle of a girl that was a junior in high school. So yeah, figure that one out.
I think I need either a flow chart or a map for that one. Well, like
Yeah.
my wife and her sister are 13 years apart. So I mean, if you time it right, yeah, it could definitely work. You reading that comment that just came through?
Yeah.
I saw your face change.
Yeah, I'm trying to make sense of that, Mr. Google guy. The answer is
the answer
find me a person.
The answer is Hudson has a pickup.
It's not a van, you know. Let's be real clear here. It's not a van. But 5-gallon, right.
Dude, I've pissed in the back of my van. Some of the places places I go don't have water or bathrooms. I mean, you gotta do what you gotta do.
Man, I tell you, I'm actually kind of fortunate always being on active construction site, because there's always a portage on there, and if not, hopefully I find a house that the plumber just finished putting the plumbing in.
Some of the houses, or some not houses, I don't do residential, but some of the places I go, get this, they don't have water or plumbing, but they have cameras. So if I just go pee behind a tree or something, they're probably going to see me do that. I don't get it. But we lost Hudson again. Oh, he's back. Hey, you're back.
I am back.
But
yep.
I mean, that's pretty much
about you not doing residential anymore.
I don't do residential. Haven't done residential in a long time.
No, I know that was the last part that I heard before everything went black.
You make it sound so morbid. No, I was just saying some of the places that I go to, they don't have bathrooms or running water or anything like that, but they do have cameras, so they will see me pee out in the woods, which makes sense if you don't think about it too hard.
Yeah.
But we're at the end of the show anyway. We've got new stuff coming down the pipe constantly. Some of you might have noticed we have a new logo. We have a little bit better thumbnails for the photos. We're working on just bringing everything up a little bit. Keep sharing the show. Keep telling people about it. Again, if you've got someone that's in high school, they don't know exactly what they want to do, they're thinking college might not be for them, send them our way, because we're going to be talking to all kinds of different people, from everything from me and Jay being heating and air guys, you being a sort of like that general contractor type role. I've already got set up to talk with another general contractor, all kinds of different things. I can get in touch with welders, linesmen, electrician. We can find all kinds of people to talk to. So if there's someone that you want to hear from, let us know, because between the three of us, we probably have a connection that we can hook people up with. Let's see what else. What else is there? We are on Facebook. The show is on Facebook. It's also on Instagram and Twitter. All the links for that stuff is in the description of this video and all the other videos. If you want to ask me or Caleb a question on social media, best of luck with that, because neither one of us are on there. You can ask Jay if he's not in Facebook jail. He's about the only one you can talk to on there, though. But there are people in the groups that, from what I understand, are really helpful. So, get on there, network, do that whole thing. Let's see. What are we doing next week? I think not next week. The week after next week.
2 weeks from now.
2 weeks from now. That would be the history of hand tools, right?
Yeah. Yeah,
Is
I
that
know we
correct?
had a history of hand tools. We're gonna, and then we talked about surnames. The hand tools, there's probably a good bit in there. Surnames, it's kind of limited, but there's some interesting stuff there. So, but
That is going to be February the 18th. That is Jay's topic. He's all on his own on that one because he didn't show up for this one. So we're just going to stick him with that.
there we go.
But other than that, guys, I think that's everything. That is one massive. What the fuck is that? Hang on. What does that say?
Scrap metal guide.
What about scrap metal do
Yeah,
you
if
want
it's
guidance on? You take it down there and they weigh it and then they give you cash for it. It's a good profession
you
if
get more
you're
for copper.
into. Yeah, you get the most for brass if you can find it.
Brass, copper, and aluminum. There you go, Google guy.
There you go. You'd think a guy with the name Google Guy would be able to work a magical thing called Google. I mean,
Yeah,
I can
isn't he
Google.
the guy
I can
that
Google
answers
the prices and give
all our
you.
questions?
I can give you the prices if you want them. Let's see. Scrap metal
Current scrap metal prices.
prices. Bare bright copper wire, $3.79 a pound. Updated 2/4/2022. So if you got any copper wire running around, go dump it. Today's the day to do it.
Yep, I second that.
He says I second that. But yeah, I think that's about it. Like I said, like we said, there's two of us. 2 weeks from now, we're going to be doing the history of tools. Jay is going to be doing the history of tools, not we. We're going to heckle him for once. And that's going to be the.
Make all the inappropriate comments.
Damn right. That's going to be the 18th. But other than that, guys, like, comment, share, subscribe to the channel if you're new to the channel. Share it with your friends. And we will see you on the next one.